We're super excited about today's episode because we get so many questions about fitness tech, gadgets like wearables, Garmin, Apple Watch. And so, disclaimer, we're not sponsored by anybody. So, like, these are just unbiased personal thoughts, opinions, experiences. Like, we ain't trying to get you to buy stuff. This is just like, hey, if I could fast forward, I probably wouldn't have bought some of these things now knowing what I know. So hopefully we can help y'all save some monies, and then reversely, maybe we make you spend some monies, and that's totally cool. But first one we wanted to get into is definitely one of the most popular questions, especially I actually switched teams. So I was like hard on Garmin for years and years and years. And then I got in bed with Apple Watch, and now like it's still to this day, everybody in my DMs like, yo, why'd you switch? So Mac Daddy, because you're definitely Garmin, which one do you have?
I have the Phoenix 6, the one that you definitely influenced me to go buy.
The 6X is the huge one. The 6S is basically like the one that is smaller. I think it's 42 millimeters. I want to say the 6X is 52 or 51. It's big. Did you have any other fitness watches prior to that, or like was the Garmin your first one?
Yeah, I had an Apple Watch, like I want to say like one of the first iterations of the Apple Watch when it first came out. My mom and my dad bought it for me for my 30th birthday. Yeah, I had used that like pretty much up until I got the Garmin. It was the first iteration of the Apple Watch, so it didn't do a whole lot. Yeah, they've upgraded it quite a bit, but I'm not a really big jewelry / like wearing things. I tend to fuck with shit on my I want to play with it and take it off. So I'm actually surprised I've kept up with this watch and haven't lost it. Maybe because it was like $800 when I bought it. So I was like, I'm not losing this thing. But no, I mean, I've had it for almost 3 years now. So, and it's still doing its thing. There's some things I think I need to like reset it or update the software, but I honestly don't use all like the functionality that it could be used.
And meanwhile, I had the Garmin Forerunner 235. I had the Garmin Vivo Move. I had the Garmin Venu. That was like me in my like early 20s-ish. And then I actually had a nutrition client that they were sponsored by Garmin. And so one day he texted me and was like, hey, I'm about to get a bunch of new swag. Like, do you want anything? And I was like, hey, dude, like, I don't know like too much about like what's the newest model or anything like that. So like, just send me whatever you think is cool. And so it actually ended up being a Garmin Phoenix 5S. So I got my first one for free. I think I had that for a few years. And then the battery life, like comparatively now, if you have like the 6, the 7, like it is light years difference. And so I bumped up. I had the 6X, which is what you had. And so ironically, I actually ordered it by accident. I meant to order the smaller one, but I was ordering off of Amazon. I like wasn't paying attention. And so I order it, I get it in the mail. And again, it's like a tuna can. Like this thing is freaking huge. I think there's typically like several years between whenever the latest models come out. And so I upgraded to the 7S. And then Apple had just come out with the Apple Ultra, which same thing, like it's huge. It takes up the watch. And so I had it a couple days and I was like, ooh, I don't know. And then I was like, oh, actually, I do like this better than Garmin. So they can all do the same things. Like they can all receive text and call notifications, which like miss me on any notifications. Like I get a watch and I'm like, turn that shit off. No. So I don't do any, I'm kind of same with you. It's like, I'm not using it to the full potential of like, it can do all these cool things. And it's like at base value, I'm using it to tell time, to track my steps, calendar, et cetera. But both of them are going to have map and GPS capabilities. They've got music capabilities. So like you don't have to have your phone on you to still be able to listen to music. Both of them, you can track your menstrual cycle. At this point, if you have the 7, at least for Garmin, both of them would be touchscreen. If you're undecided between the two, it's like, well, how much money do you want to spend? Because with both of them, the more money you spend, like the more bells and whistles you get. But what aesthetic do you prefer? Because definitely like Garmin is very like,
I feel like it's like for hardcore people. When I go to like a wedding and I'm sitting there wearing this like Spy Kids watch and I'm like,
they have different wristbands for the Apple Watch, and same thing for Garmin. It's like you can choose different color combos. When it comes to Apple Watch, the perk is that you're going to get to use the same exact apps that you would like on your phone. And so, for example, like this is actually like my favorite feature is I don't ever have to carry my apartment keys because I can actually unlock it using my watch. So like when I get in the elevator, I can just open up the app, click it, and same thing on my front door. So that's super nice because God knows I'm like the dummy that'll walk out, go grab coffee, and then be like, oh, I don't have my keys. Fuck. So, I mean, that's definitely cool. When it comes to battery life, Garmin for sure like takes the home run. If you turn off the ability to track your heart rate and all kind of the extra noise with, I'd be curious to know, Alex, because I feel like with my Garmin, I could go like 3 to 4 weeks without charging it. Does that sound about right?
I think when I fully charge, as I have all the stuff turned off as well, it still measures my heart rate. So I think I get like 24 days, 25 days to a full charge, something like that.
I think if you have all of the like fluff turned on, I want to say it's like 10 or 11 days. I don't know about the regular Apple Watch, but with the Apple Ultra, it's usually 2 to 3 days. But what I tell people is I literally have my charger in the bathroom. And so anytime I take a shower, I just pop my watch on there. And then same thing. It's like, I don't like sleeping with stuff. And like you were saying, it's like, I don't want it. I'm like scraping Charlie with my watch. Like I ain't messing with that. So same thing. I just charge at night. So it's not a problem, but definitely the battery life is less on Apple.
So I think you got to figure out like too, like what other gadgets that you have. I do believe that Apple Watch, you have to have an iPhone to set it up. Because I was doing research last night about all this stuff because I was trying to get ready for this podcast. But yeah, I think you need a iPhone to set it up. You don't need it to necessarily run, but you need it to set it up because it's paired with your iPhone. If you're a Apple Android user, bless your heart,
green people,
then you're going to have to use a different watch. But Garmin will work with both iPhone, Android, or whatever phones you have because they just use their own like proprietary pairing app.
You can actually like make your skin blister if you get your watch wet, or like let's say you like just went for a run, you're super sweaty. If you don't take off your watch regularly and like give your wrist time to breathe, you can actually make your skin like blister and bleed up. Because Charlie actually experienced that both with his Garmin and with his Whoop. And same thing, make sure to be taking off your watch because that little sensor can kind of make your skin nasty. Biggest thing to note for both of these, both of them can do your heart rate. Obviously, both of them can do like GPS and runs and stuff. If you have tattoos, it's just going to depend what your tattoo is like as to whether the watch can accurately and regularly read your heart rate. So for me, because I have sleeves on both of my wrists, and I mean I'm tattooed quite literally up to my wrist, and then the top of my hands are both tattooed as well. So it's like it's very hit or miss. It's like both of them, if I like turn on heart rate stuff and I'm working out, it'll clock it every once in a while. But it's like, even if you look at the graphs, you'll see like, maybe there's like 4 or 5 times during like a 20-minute workout or something. And then I think it was actually like Laura had shown her graph or chart of like what it looks like when she works out. I was like, oh, that's my freaking tattoos just like invade me there. You can try and flip the sensor so that it's on like the bottom of your wrist rather than kind of wearing your watch regular. How is it with heart rate stuff for you, Alex?
I don't really care too much about like what my heart rate gets up to. Like it's been a while since I've done any kind of, zone training. Because when I was doing it when I was running, I think with me, my heart rate just goes sky high anyways whenever I do any kind of cardio. So I started to basically just ignore my heart rate when I was running because I felt fine. It's just I would, be running and I was like, okay, I'm running at a sustainable pace, but my heart rate would be like 170. I'm like, there's no way, like 180. Like there's no way I'm maintaining a 180 heart rate pace like throughout this whole run. I did use the Garmin for figuring out how long I was running, like distance wise. And I did notice like a big discrepancy between the Garmin versus like using something like Strava, which you can pair the two together. No watch is going to be totally accurate because it does use, things like GPS. And if you're running under tree cover, that can mess things up. So you just kind of have to pick your ruler and stick with it. If you're really using it for running, like maybe map out your run and see what the distance is so that you know for sure, like this is actually what I'm doing. Because there was a few times when I was running, I think I ran longer than I needed to run because my GPS like went out of signal while I was running. And then I don't know how it works, but it tries to pick back up and then it's like guessing. So
I feel like it did that one day because I remember you and I were like, we were like running by the water and and I was like, sick, we hit 3 miles, I'm done. And you were like, I'm at like 2.7. I was like, well, that sucks to suck.
It was quite a big discrepancy between, and honestly, it was a little bit disappointing. I don't know how the Apple Watch compares, and I remember going on threads and Reddit and seeing, and yeah, people were saying like, yeah, the GPS, the Garmin, whatever they're tracking, it's just there'll be some error, but it's just you got to pick your ruler and stick with it.
I remember like being at the CrossFit games and we were actually with our friend Rumblebum and she had an Apple Watch. I had my Garmin. And so we were like with each other all day and we were walking around. And so I remember looking at my steps and then looking at her steps. And it was like, I think I was at like 18,000 and she was at like 23,000. Back in the day, they just weren't as good. So I think that is the thing that you get with like the newest and latest, greatest model is things are going to be just more accurate than maybe kind of, the previous models and stuff like that. The other thing I would throw out too is like if you're going for the Garmin Phoenix, if you're going for the Apple Watch, even if you're not somebody that normally does Apple Care, because I'm usually that person, like, nah, we don't we don't mess with it. He was like, do it because if scratch the watch face and you need to replace it, like it's going to cost you, like you could almost like buy a brand new watch almost for the cost. I'm like, ah, shit. They both have the sapphire technology. It, again, especially with Garmin, it does cost, I think, like $100 extra, but like do it because I ended up spending more money because again, it was like I had 3 different watches. I hated all of them or I didn't like, features that they had or whatever it was. And so it was like, well, if you took the total of those 3 watches that I bought over the course of like, a couple of years, it actually totaled to the same exact price of if I had just like saved up and done it. And like I said, like if I'm going to buy something, I would rather have delayed satisfaction. I would rather like take the time, save up and buy the Cadillac or buy the really good thing. It was specifically the Garmin Venu. I think I literally scratched it. I didn't even have it like a week. And I had a scratch that went from the freaking entire like edge to edge and it drove me crazy. If you're trying to get a watch and you're on a budget, go look on Poshmark, go look on Mercari. Consider buying the previous model or just look if somebody's offloading it on some sort of resale. As far as actual prices, Apple can range from anywhere, I think it's 250 to the Ultra was 800. If you do want to get different wristbands or you want to upgrade them, again, that's going to cost you. What is Garmin pricing these days aside from freaking expensive?
Yeah, so I think with the Phoenix, it's going to be like 600,000, but then they also have the other models. So I think they're comparable to the Apple range, like 250 to 1,000. So both Apple and Garmin, I mean, they're competitors, so their prices are going to be fairly similar for functionality that they offer. So, and the thing about Garmin is they have a lot more options. It can be a little bit overwhelming to figure out which one to choose, but there's probably something for that meets your needs and within your budget.
And it really is too. It's just like, get real about what features you're really going to use on it. People ask me like, oh, how do you feel? And I'm like, dude, I don't use it for that feature. Like for me, it's really just like, if I go for a run, can you GPS? Can you, track accurately? Are you doing my steps? Way back in the day, I used to like nerd out over sleep, nerd out over all these things. And like, miss me.
I mean, I'm not buying another watch because this one works perfectly fine. But I think in hindsight, if I didn't not have a watch, I'd probably go with the Apple Watch because it pairs with all my apps, and I don't need all the fancy stuff that the Garmin can do. So yeah.
If I was really going to dumb it down, it's like if you're somebody that you're like, I train for marathons. I love going hiking. I love doing like outdoorsy stuff. I'm hard on my watch in terms of like physical activity, swimming, all that stuff. Go Garmin. But Apple can still do all of those things, but it is just going to be a little aesthetically more pleasing and probably have more versatility in that way. Especially in the CrossFit space, Whoop was like the sauce. Like you literally weren't a cool kid if you didn't have a Whoop. For example, I drive a Forerunner. Therefore, if I see somebody else rocking a Forerunner, like you get the nod of approval, the head nod. Same thing, like Jeep people got their Jeep people. So same thing. It's like if you see somebody wear a Whoop, you instantly know, okay, this person probably like CrossFits or they're probably serious about their fitness. So it's like it's like when you're out somewhere and you see somebody wearing Metcons and you're like, okay, we know, we connect and we vibing.
Do you know why it's called Whoop? I was doing all that research and I literally couldn't figure out why it's called Whoop. But because every time when it first came out, I was like, Whoop, there it is. Like I thought.
Oh God.
Oh.
All I can think of is just like the CrossFit nostalgia of it was the sauce. Everybody had one. You weren't cool if you didn't. And I just like, in my opinion, I think you love it or hate it. I still know a lot of people that they love theirs. It's great. When the Whoop works, it is actually really cool to see the data. Because I remember during the Panini, people would post and be like, oh, dang, like I came down with the vid and my Whoop called it. And, it was like their Whoop score would be like single digits, they would be air quotes like in the red. And then reversely, so it's like the Whoop was actually very good at predicting, oh shit, like you're about to get sick. Oh, you're sick. Okay. That was actually why I ended up getting one. It was right before I was about to get a boob job. And so I was super curious. It was literally just from a place of like, like I know this recovery is going to be kind of gnarly. So like, I'd be curious to see like, what's the data? What's my recovery going to look like? And so basically what the Whoop is it's a wristband. It's a recovery device. So it's going to monitor your sleep, your heart rate, your HRV. It doesn't track steps and it doesn't tell the time, which like, I still like fucking dumb, man. Like, because you're going to have to double ding. You're going to have to wear a watch and you're going to have to wear your freaking Whoop band.
They actually have an article on their website talking about why they don't track steps. Long story short, they just don't think it's a good indicator of overall like impact on cardiovascular effect, because their logic is that you can walk, say 5 miles, and you can do it at a very low intensity and not really get your heart rate up at all. And they were like saying a lot of Whoop users have data to say that, okay, we walked a bunch and it didn't affect my heart rate at all. Whereas if you did something that did affect your heart rate, that's more indicative of like, does it affect your overall health, fitness, and things like that. So that's why they use the strain. They calculate this metric called strain, which is basically the impact that an activity has on your overall recovery. And it's based off, impacts on your heart rate and things like that.
Still bullshit. I remember getting it in the mail and that just like wasn't even on my radar of thinking. And I was like, well, this, like, I feel like such a nerd. I don't want stuff on me. I don't want jewelry. I don't want accessories. So now I'm like double dinging watch and band. Like,
yeah, I feel like at Whoop as a company, like I don't want to tell them how to run their business, but if you got asked multiple times about this, like, why don't you track steps? Couldn't you just like add it in there just a little bit, just for shits and giggles, I don't know.
And I mean, what it would be was it would have to drastically change the size because it would need a bigger little like little digital hub, but like, so dumb. But, that being said, you can still accessorize it. So like you can choose what color the band looks like. You can choose what color the little like metal strap thingy looks like. They also have accessories too, right? But I mean, I never had them.
Which actually is quite useful if you do other sports. So for example, I do, jiu-jitsu. I couldn't wear the Whoop on the wrist, and I definitely couldn't wear the Garmin. And we'll talk about Oura Ring too, but I wouldn't be able to wear any of those things while training jiu-jitsu. Whoop actually makes a lot of accessories that you can just take the sensor out and then put it into the garment. You can wear it while you're training. So they make a little arm strap, they make underwear, all that kind of stuff. So I was able to actually train jiu-jitsu with the Whoop for several weeks with this like little armband.
Make sure you take it off, especially if you like are somewhere where it's really hot, you're sweating
Oh
a
yeah,
lot.
it did mess up my skin a lot. They tell you like it has to be tight on your skin.
What is the Whoop membership looking like these days?
The way the process works is you go on Whoop and you order your sensor and your band, and anything other than the black band is going to cost you extra. So they'll send you the band and then the sensor technically for free, but you have to sign up for a membership. So the membership runs either in 2-year commitment, 1-year commitment, or you can pay month to month. But obviously, the longer you commit, the more of a break on the cost that you get. So like the 2-year is $399. You pay that totally up front. The 1-year, I think, is $239, also paid up front. Or you can pay monthly for $30 a month. So it's really just whether you want to pay it up front or you want to finance. But the thing is, with the Whoop, you're paying that every year now. So if you sign up for a year, you're now paying $239 every year that you own and use a Whoop. So that actually can get really expensive. Like any of the things that I feel like are on that we're about to talk about are on the market.
Well, and the question is, are you going to use it? Because I definitely did. I think I did like the year up front, and then I only wore it for, maybe 5-6 months. Because what happened was when they came out with the 3.0, it wouldn't read my heart rate correct. I actually messaged, or I'd like send an email. I like reached out to customer service and was like, yo, like I've never had issues with the 2.0, but the 3.0, it's not working. And so the customer service email response I got back was like, oh, well, like you must have got new tattoos. And I was like, my dudes, my tattoos are 15 years old. And that's a no. Like nothing has changed except the fact that like I upgraded to the latest and greatest and now my shit's whack. I assume they probably like did a bunch of software updates and, it's probably fine now. I would never remember to charge the stupid thing because again, it's not like it has a monitor. It doesn't have anything that says like, hey, bitch, I'm about to die, right? And so it's like, I want to look at the device I'm using and have it tell me like, hey, I need to be charged. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, that's weird. The light's not lighting up anymore. Like, miss me.
They might have addressed that with the 4. I only use the 3.0, so I don't know like what the 4 is like these days.
Did you have a lot of clients that did the Whoop? What was your thing with them in terms of like, would they listen? Would they still train? Like what that look like?
I did have a few clients that had Whoops, and we always had a conversation with it about like, hey, this is just another tool that you can use to assess what's going on. We obviously don't want to throw like the baby out with the bathwater and I think a lot of people tend to get stressed out about the metrics and let that get into their heads about what they should be doing. I still think that your own intuition and how you feel should also play into account. So we always had that conversation of like, hey, if this device is telling me day in, day in, day out that I'm not recovering, what are we doing about it? And what are we doing in our lives that is causing this to happen? And maybe that's what we need to look at instead of stressing out about this data.
I think it's a 50-50 split because it's like, it can definitely be helpful to see data from kind of like a third party perspective because it's like, I go to bed at 10 every night. I get up at 6, I'm getting 8 hours of sleep. But then you actually get, the receipts. That's like, well, yeah, you were in bed 8 hours, but you actually only got, 6.5 hours of sleep. I do think it can be helpful to actually see more legitimate receipts just rather than this is what I think I'm doing. But how do you help people bridge the gap of, oh, well, Whoop says I'm in the red today, but I actually feel fantastic. Like I woke up, I feel great, I'm ready to roll. With all of these, the issue I would always have is it's like the data wouldn't always be matching how I was feeling. That's a weird way to start your day. If it's like you wake up, you feel great, but then you open this app and Whoop would be like, fuck you. Like yeah, like you fucking suck. And it'd be like, well, I'm literally maximizing and doing the best I can with what I got. But mutually, it's like, this is what I got. And now you're just telling me I suck. But do you remember like nutrition coaches that would have like their macros, like for their clients, it would turn like red, yellow, green. And same thing. It's like, maybe it hits for some people, but especially if you're like a type A person or just, trying really hard, it doesn't feel good to be like, well, fuck it. It's like, I'm gonna get aboard the fuck it choo-choo train, right?
I wore it for, I can't remember how long I wore it, maybe like 2 months or so. What was funny is about it was when I was wearing it first, I wasn't wearing it during jujitsu because I didn't have the little arm strap. And then I started wearing it during jujitsu training, and it went from like greens to mostly yellows to like reds a lot. And honestly, I expected that. I actually have a friend that she's the one that got me to wear it. She used to work for Whoop. And she said this, if I get a red, I will still train. I will just adjust my training and then also try to reflect back about what I did the previous day that would make me get a red. And actually, Whoop has this cool thing on their app. They call it the Whoop Journal or a journal. And you can choose and pick and choose what kinds of questions that it will ask you. Did you eat enough? Like, how many carbs did you get? Or like,
did you have sex today?
Yeah, no, it'll ask you all these things. And then it'll start, the more that you do it, it'll start trying to make correlations between your activities or your behaviors and then your recovery. So it can be like, all right, when you don't, get vitamin D, you don't take your vitamin D supplement or whatever, your recovery is worse. It can start like almost coaching you through what you should be doing to help improve your recovery or optimize or maximize recovery, which I think is pretty cool. But, obviously that's based on your diligence with putting that data in. And I'll be honest, I started off strong doing it. And then I was like, I don't feel like messing with it. So you got to be diligent with doing it. Yeah.
I'm reckless, man. Can't be bothered. Like the number of days that I would wear it and realize like, oh shit, this thing's been dead for days. At this point, I have things dialed in, it's fun to nerd, but I think that is the big thing is like not getting too addicted to the data. And at some point, it's like you're going to have these habits so refined that these scores or these little things, it's like they can be helpful if you're on the hot mess express or maybe you're just like very first starting out. I do think, especially on the alcohol front, I think for a lot of clients, it would be very helpful, insightful to see that data and then kind of make that correlation for sure.
Yeah, so Whoop will also figure out they'll give you an estimate for your daily caloric energy expenditure. And
Fuck
that
off.
shit is so, that's another conversation I'm having with clients. There is actual data out there that those calorie trackers are not accurate, like at all. Heart rate is great. They can do heart rate, they can do HRV, but actual caloric expenditure throughout the day is not anywhere close to what it would be. Because people would ask me, it's like, well, my Whoop says that I burned like 2,700 calories yesterday. Should I eat that? And then it's like, yo, we're maintaining at 2,000. We have the data here to say this. Like, if you want to eat 2,700 calories, you can go right ahead, but you're going to gain 2 pounds a week probably doing that. So you have to take that calorie expenditure with a grain of salt. What I do think it's helpful to look at is if it changes up or down. Maybe the absolute number is not correct, but if you're averaging, let's just say it says, oh, your expenditure is, 2,300 calories, and that's pretty regular, but then you start dropping down to like 2,000, that means your activity has dropped off. So that's something to consider is that, hey, my activity has changed, so maybe I need to look at my food intake, right? But the absolute number, it's not it.
If you're wearing the Apple Watch, I don't even know what like activity tracker thing is. It's the one with like the green rings that close, like fuck off with that. Same thing with like closing, fuck off with that. Girl, boy, whatever, like go to the gym, get your steps and like move the fuck on with life. Like stop obsessing over that, right?
It could definitely be a motivator, but it could definitely be something that we take into extreme. It's like, I got this 1,000-day streak in my fitness pal. Can't lose my streak. Like, it's really about how you're looking at it.
When I Googled about Oura Ring, I actually like smiled because I feel like I love like companies' bold statements, right? So like Oura Ring says, we are the world's best sleep tracker. Okay, all right. So the Oura Ring basically is going to track sleep, heart rate, activity. Same thing. It kind of generates this idea of like readiness. And you can also track your menstrual cycle. It does do temperature monitoring. I have no idea the accuracy or the validity of those, but I can tell you it's like with both Garmin and Apple, I would just track my menstrual cycle in the calendar. So basically just track like the days that you have your period. And for both Apple and Garmin, and granted, I have a very consistent cycle of like 27, 28 days, boom, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. I can't vouch for Oura. I have no idea, but I definitely did have one. But the problem I would have is it tracks your steps. But my Garmin, like let's say my Garmin says 10,000 steps, or a ring would be like, yeah, bro, 13,000 steps, 12,000 steps. So if you're super active and you're getting tons of steps, then yeah, it doesn't really matter. But again, if you're somebody that you're not getting a lot of steps, but you think you're getting more steps than you are, can be a problem. That's again one of those things where it's like, oh, like I'm dieting right now, but I'm not losing weight. I can't figure out why. And then it comes down to something like this. So would not recommend Oura for the steps. But price wise, Alex, what you got for Oura Ring?
I think there's two different types of rings. And when I was looking it up, they didn't really seem too much difference. And
I can tell you what it is. I think it's whether they're smooth or not like octagonal, but like it was like beep, beep, beep. Like it wasn't completely round. So I think that's what the difference is.
yeah, so it's pretty much like, do you want one that looks like the One Ring, like from Lord of the Rings, or do you want, I don't know. So, but they're different prices. So base, obviously, if you get, I think, silver, black, those are your base options. The Horizon, which is the smooth One Ring to bind them all, is $349, and then the Heritage is $299. Now, if you obviously go for different types of finishes, like the stealth finish, which I like, one looks cool. But I know you are a rose gold gal, so that one will.
No, so I had mine wasn't black, but it wasn't like charcoal. It was like something in the middle. But I will say, like, if you're gonna buy one of these, I would suggest getting on Reddit or I would suggest doing some Googling because mine got scratched. So I did not wear it, working out. I didn't, but it was like mine, it would be like this, black charcoaly ring, and they'd be like, scratch, scratch, scratch. And that shit drove me crazy. Like, absolutely not.
I mean, Aura was pretty straightforward about saying like, yo, it can get scratched if you wear it a lot and you wear it working out. So, but yeah, the rose gold can cost you up to $550. So, but the thing is about the Aura is that if you're thinking about like a wearable compared to something like Whoop, it is going to be less money in the long term because you pay for the ring. There is like a membership now. It's like $6 a month. You don't have to get the membership, but I think like in order to use the ring at its full potential and get all the metrics, you have to have the membership. But it's only $6 a month as compared to, okay, you got a Whoop and then you're paying $240 a year versus, all right, you buy the ring for $350 and then you pay $6 a month. So it's a less cost over time with the Oura Ring.
They are nice looking if you're into that style. They're definitely just like a big, thick, chunky ring. So same thing. It's like when you see someone wearing it, you're like, oh, nice Oura Ring. Okay.
I couldn't wear the Whoop to bed because I just can't have it on my wrist. But I would imagine because it's on your finger, it might be a little bit more comfortable.
It wasn't uncomfortable. It was just like I would find myself, it's kind of like if you're chewing gum and you're just like chomping away and then you're like, what am I doing? Same thing. It's like I would like notice, I would just be playing with it all day long and like sliding it up and down my finger. One thing that is nice is that they actually send you a sizing kit for free, which is great. But I do know that the sizing is weird. So I remember like I wear like a 5.5 or like a 5.75 if we were talking like, air quotes, like real rings. But also it's like when you're excited to buy something and then it's like, okay, well, it'll take a week to get your sizing kit, a week to send it back, and then another week to ship your thing. And so it's definitely like that is one customer service thing. I'm like, it's not the greatest, but I also don't know how you would like go around it other than it was like, I think they did have something you could like print off. But again, I don't own a printer. I'm the person that goes to my apartment to be like, hi, sorry, I'm not an adult. Can you like print this thing for me? Great, thanks, right?
I was reading about it too. And I do believe that in certain stores like Best Buy, I think they've partnered with them and you can go directly into the store and get sized there. Yeah, that should cut back on the lead time of like getting your ring.
With the Oura Ring, do not wear that damn thing while you are working out. And I don't even want to tell you to go Google like what it means to deglove yourself. But let me tell you, you wear a ring while you are working out, it is not going to end well. At some point, it's not going to work out in your favor how you want it to, and your shit is going to get fucked. So please do not work out with a ring on your finger. Love letter. Thank you. Great. Thanks. I'm sure people in the comments are going to be like, fuck this chick. But like literally, like life's short. If you're going to end up in the ER, don't let it be for something dumb like that. My Lord.
Did you talk about the sleep? Would you say it's the world's best sleep tracker?
People that love their Oura Ring, just like people that love their Whoop, it's like if you're in the camp and you fucking love it, you love it. It had the same feedback for me that I just didn't love of I would be doing air quotes all the right things. I would wake up and be like, damn, I feel like $1,000. And I would open the stupid fucking app and it'd be like, you suck. You know, here's what I would say. I think if you're like smashing bomb scores on Oura, I think you're also somebody kind of like our friend Natalie Higby that she'd be like, yo, 10 to 12 hours of sleep. Like sleep is bae. I'm not that person and it's fine. Like it works for me. I feel good. But it's like that was the same frustration. That was ultimately why I stopped wearing it was just like the Whoop. I would forget to charge it. And same thing. It was just like, it was not an encouraging feedback. There's the only metric I could literally change would be just to spend more time in bed. And that's not a value for me. Like it's not it. So like I said, unfortunately, I'm not team Oura either. But I do know people that love it. I do know people that it got them to stop being an asshole. It got them to sleep more at night, but it's a lot of money. And then I stopped wearing it and, got rid of it too.
If you had to choose between Whoop or Oura, which one would you choose?
I'd go Oura.
I think I'd go Whoop.
Really?
Yeah. Because the fact that I can't wear the Oura doing the main activity that I would be doing all the time. So I do like Whoop's ability to, you have all these accessories. They have like a little club that you can join and you can get a free accessory every 3 months for, I think you pay like $12 a month extra or whatever. That to me is a little bit more appealing. The fact that I can wear it doing things that I would be doing.
I'm excited about this next one. I'm like smiling already. We wanted to throw the recovery massage guns into this conversation. And I never had a Theragun. So again, this is all like kind of like past information. Maybe things have changed. So that's my disclaimer. But the Theragun was one of the very first ones on the market. And it was really loud. They all do the same thing. Basically, it's a gun, you charge it. And it has some sort of, you can like change the different heads that you put on it. But the idea is, again, it's a massage gun. So if you're like, oh, like my shoulder is really tight or, oh, this thing hurts in my body, you could kind of self-massage it that way. I had a Hypervolt at some point, and when I bought it, I didn't end up using it as much as I thought I would because it's like in my head, I would want to watch TV late at night and then be like, oh, I'm going to work out my calves or my quads or something. But then you couldn't hear the TV because all you hear is like, bah, 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 bah. Either way, I don't have any kind of feelings. I don't think there's any negatives. I don't think there's any cons to using them. If you love it, great. Make sure you're not me where it was like I hyped myself up. I was like, oh, I'm going to use this all the time. And then I ended up, turning around and selling it because it was just sitting, in a drawer somewhere. So that would kind of just be my one.
I did have a chiropractor that used it. I think if you're constantly using one of those things, you need to look at your training and what you're doing that you feel like you constantly need to beat the shit out of your body with this vibrating dildo gun.
Here's the only caveat I will say, Alex, is it's like, if you're strength training or you're CrossFitting, the soreness is different than like I can be not super warmed up and go smash heavy, hypertrophy and bodybuilding, right? So I do agree. It's like if you're completely reliant on it, maybe we need to look within and check ourselves. Are we going too hard? Are we doing the most? Are we getting rest days? But I will also say it's like I also mutually get your training styles. Certain training styles are also just gonna, lay the whoop on you. You don't have a cooling mattress cover, right?
No. I just have my Performance Sleep mattress. Is this your Star Trek bed? That you need Wi-Fi to operate?
Yes. So it was my chiropractor. Actually, it was my chiro in Dallas. Shout out to my friend Austin Hogan, he was the one that kind of like turned me on to this. But the idea is that like you get to be a fucking popsicle. Like you can turn your bed ice cold. So like if you're somebody that like you wake up and you're always swampy, you're sweaty, you're gross in the morning, once you have some sort of cooling mattress cover, you can't go back to the alternatives. So the only thing I will say is they are expensive. So it is definitely an investment. But I think the theme with all of these is it's like they're all a big upfront cost, but they're also going to like last you a really, really long time. So let's say you're somebody that you're like, fuck, I'm always cold. Well, great. You can like make your little warm cocoon. And then reversely, if your significant other like likes being ice cold, bigger dude, whatever it is, it's like you can change the sides of the mattress. You can use the mattress cover to wake you up in the morning. And so rather than making sound, the bed would actually vibrate. And so it was kind of like you cracked an egg in a pan and you could like swizzle the egg in circles. Like that's how the bed would wake you up, is like it would vibrate in a circle. So it would go like, I think it would go like one way and then it'd circle around the other way. When I was setting up the bed, I didn't know what I was doing because it would just be like, oh, what time do you normally go to bed? What time do you wake up? And I like remember waking up in a panic, being like, what the fuck is happening? And like levitating off the bed. The only caveat that I will give with the 8 sleep, Charlie and I, when we sleep together, like I know that some couples are like opposite sides of the bed, do not pass go, don't fucking touch me. I think that's how like Alex is. Charlie and I are opposite, like we are pretzels. Usually Charlie goes to bed before I do, but 8 sleep can't tell the difference because we're sleeping in the middle of the bed. But because we're sleeping together in the middle of the bed, it will combine our data because it gives you data about like, oh, your sleep quality, your HRV, how many times you woke up. And so it's like Charlie's responsible. He goes to bed before I do. And then again, I'm reckless and I like slide in an hour or two later. And so it'll be like, oh yeah, last night you slept 12 hours. And we're like, no, Charlie went to bed here. I actually slept like 6 hours. So just know. But again, it's like, I don't even look at that because again, I just don't care. If you're going to be influenced by something, go the freaking like chili pad direction. Again, maybe there's cheaper brands. I don't know. They sell mattresses. They sell pillows. You can also, like mine is just like the pro cover. So you can buy, there's a cheaper one that's just like a cover. And then they have, I think it's called like the pro cover, which it's just tighter fitting and it has more like straps and stuff like that. That would be in my top 5 purchases, like alongside like my Forerunner. Like I freaking love my Forerunner. Like can't sleep without my chili pad. Shit, man. The other thing we want to get into on this episode was just some of our favorite smartphone applications, so smartphone apps. As you guys know, if you've listened to even like one episode, you've probably gathered our favorite like food tracking apps. But we're definitely a team Chronometer. Still don't know how to say it. Sorry,
dude. Oh, I have a funny story for you, Lori, about Chronometer. So,
Taishin.
yeah. So I didn't know this until recently, but a guy in my fraternity, he was a senior when I was a freshman, so like a pledge. He actually co-founded Chronometer, and like I've already talked with him, and he was doing some research and stuff but his name is Spencer. He and I were in the same fraternity, and he started Chronometer, which is hilarious to me. And then he reached out to me recently to do some they're trying to make, I guess, more options for coaches. Yeah, that's the primary tracking app that I use to coach my clients because they have that built-in client management.
Fuck MyFitnessPal. I used MyFitnessPal from, that would have been 2012 until like 2017. There's nothing wrong with MyFitnessPal, just to be clear. At the end of the day, all of these apps, you just have to figure out like they all do the same things. But my favorite things about Chronometer is I'm reckless. And so when I track my food, I'm usually recalling for majority of the day. I'm not worried about timestamps. I'm not doing any of that. Like the way I track, I literally just like quickly track all the things I eat. And then I'll move them around to also connect the dots and be like, okay, for breakfast, I know I had XYZ. Am I missing anything? Oh shit, I forgot my coffee. Okay, cool. But with Chronometer, you don't have to set targets. So you can just track your food without having to be like, oh, I need to hit specific amount of protein, specific amount of carb. But reversely, it's super flexible. So if you're like, hey, I just want to track protein and calories and I don't set specific goals for carbs and fat, you can do that. I actually want to like write to Chronometer and be like, hey, please give the option to turn off the food tracking streak. Cause this, like, I don't want it. Same thing. I was like, I remember my fitness pal be like, 1,200 days. I'd be like, you should take a break, woman. Like, what are we doing, right? Obviously, we just had Greg Knuckles with Macro Factor, another great option. Basically, Macro Factor is going to be more self-guided. So rather than necessarily being reliant on a coach, you could use Macro Factor to actually take you through a cut, take you through a bulk, et cetera, et cetera. And so things are a little more automated in that way. Way back in the day, I used to use an app called Sleep Cycle. And so basically what you would do is you would charge your phone and have it on your nightstand. And then I think it like used like the microphone end of the phone. And so it'd basically pick up any like rustling of you, you know, turning, tossing and turning in your sleep and stuff like that. That was my biggest flex, like way back in the days. Like I remember there was maybe like 3 or 4 times that I got like a perfect score on my sleep. I'd be like, fuck yeah. The same thing, you know, like you'd be like just shy of it and be like, fuck this thing, I hate it.
I do use this app called Time Shifter for jet lag, though. That one's super helpful.
And I think, was it Kate Lyman just posted she used Time Shifter when she was traveling to Italy and she was...
It's super helpful. I mean, if you travel internationally at all, it's worth it because jet lag sucks. And if you can minimize the effects of it, you'll have much better experience traveling.
I'm definitely, when it comes to running apps, I don't have tons of experience with apps like Strava. I know tons of people love them. I will say there was one time, and I think it's because it was when I was in Austin and I was stand-up paddleboarding a lot. And so I was like, oh, I would love to be able to like track my stand-up paddle boards. And so I think I downloaded Strava, and I don't know if this is present day, but I know they got like $80 out of me by accident because it was that whole like, oh, try the free trial. And then after 7 days, we take your money. And sure enough, I'm that person that's like, you just signed me up for a year and I'm not going to use it. Shit. You were team Nike Run app when you did your marathon stuff, right?
Yeah, no, I really liked Nike Run Club. It's free. If you're new to running and don't really know where to start, you can just put in, hey, I have this goal. I want to run like a 5K or whatever. And you'll tell it like, oh, this is how much I'm running right now. And then it'll build you out a program based on, you know, your level and how much you want to run. You know, you can buy some shoes on there if you are so inclined.
It does make me wonder like how they support the app if it's free, but
it's through buying shoes. You can buy shoes like through the app. So, I mean, it's Nike. They make fucking billions of dollars a year. So
the only other app I had to throw in the pot was All Trails, which basically All Trails is just like, if you are going to go hiking, if you're trying to plan some sort of trail run, basically All Trails, you can see, you know, how long is it? What type of trail is it in terms of, is it an in and out? Is it, you know, one big loop? I don't know exactly what you get if you like upgrade your subscription, but I think you just get like more stuff with it. I will end this little story, and I think I texted you about it earlier, but last night Charlie was like, hey, you want to go run 3 miles? So I was like, okay, yeah, like whatever. I didn't look into it. Like literally it was just like, hey, like you want to go here? And like holds up the phone.
You should know better with Charlie at this point.
Alex, literally like in retrospect, like, you know, when you roll up to a mountain and there's all those signs and it says like, hey, make sure you have this much water. And there's like pictures. And so same thing. It was like San Diego's highest point. Like the elevation was only, I think the vert was like 950 or something. This was one of those, it was like, we were 10 minutes in and I was like, no, I cannot do this today. And so I'm pissed. It was actually the first time that I've ever like bailed on any sort of like hike or trail run situation. But it was like, that was not what I signed up for. And it was indeed 3 miles, but it was like, we were out there for like 45 minutes and we were still like a third of the way in or something. You know, it was like, it was not happening. So
was your Apple Watch screaming at you? Was it screaming, be like, what are you doing?
I should know better because that's a very like on-brand Charlie thing to just think, oh yeah, it looks great. And then turns out it's like the most difficult freaking trail run or, you know, hike you could do in San Diego type thing. All Trails is awesome if you're trying to find a cool spot to go for a run, go for a hike, that sort of thing. Any other apps? I think that's my biggies.
Yeah, I think we had like Apple Health and Google Fit. So like you can see all your data. Apple Health is actually quite useful because you can sync everything up. So
Well, I was gonna say you can sync stuff, but you can also put like emergency info. It is also dope to know, like, oh, like God forbid I ever end up in the ER, they could quick like pull up that info, know exactly, you know. Well, I hope that people don't hate me, but as always, it's like I like giving unbiased reviews. I think they're very helpful. There's nothing worse than wasting your money, being disappointed. So hopefully it's like if you're really passionate about something and I like poo pooed all over it today, I'm sorry. These are just kind of our personal experiences, personal reviews. And if it works for you, keep doing you. Just love me, love me.
I wonder if it will have anybody who works for any of these companies. They'd be like, yo, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something.
I do think it's helpful because I feel like now more than ever, especially with TikTok, there's a lot of people like extra out there shilling stuff that ain't so great or ain't so awesome. So anyway, we hope y'all found this helpful. Thanks as always for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.